A lot of attention being paid right now to a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, but it doesn't have anything to do with his on-the-field performance. Instead, it's about his Catholic views expressed this week at a commencement address at Benedictine College. And rather than let his views be mischaracterized, I'm just going to play them for you first, and then we'll get to our guest. Take a listen.
Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues. Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. You know, the difficult and unpleasant things. But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition.
Now, he goes on. He talks about some advice for the women who are graduating, experiencing their commencement there.
For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
A touching message, celebrating women and telling them, don't allow anyone to demonize your choices. That is not the way the media is representing that story today. More on this now with our guest. Bobby Burack is a columnist over at OUTKICK, and he joins us. Sir, what do you make of Harrison Butker's remarks and the way they're being received today?
Vince, I appreciate you having me. So I want to start with a question because I've been asking non-hardcore football fans this. So I'm going to start asking you, have you heard about the name Rashee Rice in the news?
Yes, I have.
So compare what happened to Butker and Rashee Rice is his teammate. Harrison Butker made those comments. He was spreading a Catholic worldview. But Rashee Rice, with whom he shares a locker room, he was caught playing Fast and Furious on the highway a few weeks ago, crashing into a car with a mother and her young child. He then fled the scene. He's facing 8 felony charges. A report came out last week that in college, he allegedly, and all the teams are aware, he shot up an empty car because he thought the guy who owned the car flirted with his girlfriend. And a week and a half ago, a police report was filed accusing him of punching a photographer. Yet nobody is really condemning Rice. The NFL didn't release a statement denouncing Rice's behavior. There's no petition calling on the Chiefs to release Rashee Rice. Now, juxtapose that to Harrison Butker, who's facing all of that backlash. The NFL put out a statement saying his views do not represent the league. We as a society, and this is indicative of something much larger than Butker and Rice, we treat supposed thought crimes more seriously than violent crimes.
There's more scandal around Harrison Butker encouraging people to be good Christians and to look after their families than there is around the fact that any number of NFL players have been implicated in domestic abuse, in choking, strangling, killing women. And the attention is so crazy how they're scandalizing decency.
Of course, and his comment was so benign. By the way, he didn't shame women that choose to work as opposed to raising a family, as the Rolling Stone claimed today. He didn't say that women are wasting their lives if they don't have kids, as MSNBC said. He pretty much said, hey, you're demonized if you do choose motherhood.
Yes. And
you shouldn't be demonized. He said that is the greatest gift of all. And for the people that are making this about sexism and gender roles, here's what's really important to remember. There's one thing men cannot do, and that is birth a child. So it is incumbent upon women to take on that role because men can't replicate it. I know a lot of women who don't have kids who chose work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also know a lot of them who chose motherhood, and either they don't work or the career is secondary. And though it might be a small sample size, maybe we can all guess what group is happier.
Yeah. Also, yeah, you kind of think about, like, in the big picture, like on my deathbed, am I going to be talking about the segment, like this segment that you and I are having right now? Or am I going to be talking about my family, my wife, my kid, hopefully my grandchildren? Yeah. Those are the kinds of things I would hope would preoccupy my thoughts in my final moments. But, you know, that would take perspective, wouldn't it? I'm going to play some audio for you from The View today. This is Sarah Haynes. She's one of the hostesses on The View. And she said that Harrison Butker is an extremist for these remarks and the way he conducts his life.
In the spirit of freedom of speech, I don't want people shut down or fired for things they're willing to say. Yeah. I will break with you on the comparison to Colin Kaepernick for this reason. Colin Kaepernick was standing up for the rights of many and saying in a social justice moment, this is a reminder that we're not there yet. What this man is doing is not just a devout Catholic. This is someone who's practicing something called the traditional Latin Mass, which is divergent from the majority of Catholics. It's compared to being cult-like and extremist like some religions in the Middle East and Asia. So this is a very extreme...
He's Al-Qaeda. You see what's happening.
...religion, and what bothers me about that as a Christian is that when people abuse Christianity, they often not only cherry pick from the Bible, they misinterpret and lie by omission.
So she's condemning him, Bobby Burack, for not only being a churchgoer, but by going to the traditional Latin Mass. If you go to Mass in Latin, obviously you are building bombs inside of your garage. You're a real threat to our public.
Yeah, it's so good. In the Babylon Bee can't even outdo the real thing. But I find the comparison to Colin Kaepernick so disingenuous, or maybe just misinformed. So first of all, Harrison Butker is making these statements at a Catholic college. He's not representing the NFL. Colin Kaepernick protested on the NFL field in front of millions of people. Vince, is, as you sure you know, there's much difference if you're a cashier and you start shouting political messages at the register than if you're a cashier who says something at a church setting. So the comparison is completely bogus, and I'm sure the View knows that, but they just don't want to admit it. In Colin Kaepernick's message, by the way, she didn't even interpret right. It wasn't necessarily that we're not where we should be as a country. He was calling the American police system racist. That's not a message that is welcoming to all. That's a pretty divisive note to send out to millions of people that the police who protect them want to shoot them because they're black. So almost everything she said in that rant was inaccurate.
Sure, and Colin Kaepernick's demonstration was in opposition to the American flag. He straight up said that he's not going to stand for a country that oppresses black people. Those were his words. And they were predicated on a lot of lies that were being told at the time, especially around the idea that there was a genocide of black people going on in the streets at the hands of police officers, which even Washington Post crime data demonstrated to be completely false, although you would never hear that from the Washington Post, that characterization. But as you looked, it turned out that there were only something like 12 to 20 unarmed black people killed in any given year by police officers. But that was not that none of that data ever really made its way to the mainstream discourse. And Colin Kaepernick was lionized for his behavior, even though he wasn't actually advancing a real cause. Meanwhile, Butker he's standing up for decency and telling people you shouldn't allow the prevailing culture to demonize your life choices if they involve getting married and having children.
Of course. And here's what I fear. Because of the backlash and because the message and interpretation of this is so one-sided against Harrison Butker, Vince, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs cut him to make a statement. When you have people calling you a sexist and transphobic, I even saw the Rolling Stones say that Harrison Butker's speech was anti-Semitic, which it wasn't. I think this could severely hurt Harrison Butker.
Well, this is religious bigotry on its face. What they're doing is anti-Christian bigotry. And it's gone so far as the city of Kansas City, again, where the Chiefs play, they, on their Twitter account yesterday, they doxed Harrison Butker. They put a post up and said, just a reminder, Harrison Butker lives in, and then they named the specific town that he lives in on their Twitter account. Now, they later took that down, and today the mayor of Kansas City is insisting that it was a mistake, that should have never been posted. We apologize for our previous tweet. It was shared in error, says the official Kansas City Twitter account. But this is completely out of control. This is anti-religious bigotry, this time using taxpayer resources to do it.
Yeah, and I don't believe that because remember, and I'm sure you do, that happened to Tucker Carlson on several occasions. Outlets would link to his address or his home, then they would correct it and say, oh, we didn't actually mean to put Tucker's address into his stories. It just so happens that these stalk criminals, if you will, always have their addresses doxed by the corporate media. Then they decide, oh, we didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, it's become far too...
After everybody's already shared the address.
Exactly right. Far too routine to be considered an accident. Even today, I mean, they say they took it down. I'm seeing it screenshotted all over the place. They're like, oh, no, here it is. We have it still. So, once it's out there, it's forever. Just a reminder for young people who are on the internet, it's forever once you post it. Okay, Bobby Burack over at OUTKICK doing excellent work as always. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate your time today.